Have you ever looked at your iPad and thought, you know what this needs? A full-blown desktop operating system. Well, get ready, because today we're diving into a project that does exactly that, cramming the entire Windows 11 experience right onto an Apple tablet. Let's jump in.
So this is the big claim from the source material, and we're not talking about a remote desktop or some clever skin. This is the real deal. You've got the Start menu, the File Explorer, settings, everything you'd expect from a Windows PC, but it's running right there on the iPad.
So right off the bat, you have to be asking, is this some kind of trick? And if it's for real, what kind of digital wizardry even makes this possible on Apple's super lockdown hardware? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down.
And let's be absolutely crystal clear here. This is not a theme that just makes iPadOS look like Windows. It's not streaming a PC from another room. It is the actual honest-to-goodness operating system, using the iPad's own processor and its own RAM to get the job done.
Okay, so how in the world does this actually happen? Well, the answer is basically a very powerful piece of software magic.
The secret sauce here is something called emulation. The easiest way to think about it is like a super smart translator. The iPad, which is our host system, runs a special program that creates a virtual PC inside of it. This lets it pretend to be a totally different computer, so our guest, Windows 11, can feel right at home.
And this slide really breaks it down perfectly. At the very bottom, you've got the host, which is just your regular iPad running iPadOS. Then in the middle, you have the engine, an app called UTM that builds that virtual PC. And then sitting right on top, running inside that virtual PC, is the guest, Windows 11.
Now, there is one more little technical detail that's super important. To get any kind of decent performance, you need to have a feature called Just-in-Time or JIT compilation turned on. It's a key step that helps the emulator run everything way more efficiently, and it's what makes this whole thing surprisingly usable.
All right, so now we kind of get the theory, but what do you actually need to have on hand to make this crazy project a reality?
It really comes down to just two main things. First, you need that UTM app, which you have to sideload. That's just a fancy word for installing it from outside of Apple's official App Store. Second, you need a Windows 11 ISO file. That's the main installation file, and the source makes it clear. You need the standard x64 version, the one made for most PCs.
Now, here's a fantastic tip from the source. You could just get the official version from Microsoft, but that's a massive download packed with stuff you'll never use on an iPad. Instead, the recommendation is a special version called Tiny 11. It's been stripped down, all the bloat is gone, and it's designed to run on less powerful machines. So yeah, it's pretty much perfect for this.
So with all our ingredients ready, let's take a quick walk through the process. It gets a little technical, but you'll be surprised at how straightforward it is.
So you fire up the UTM app and create a new virtual machine. This is basically where you tell the app how much of your iPad's power you want to lend to Windows. The guide suggests about 3 GB of RAM and 4 CPU cores. After that, you just point the app to your Windows file, decide how much storage to give it, and hit the launch button.
Speaking of storage, the creator of the guide gave Windows 24 gigs of the iPad's internal space. Seemed like plenty, especially for that lightweight Tiny 11 version. But this is where we hit our first and honestly kind of funny little roadblock. So you start the installation and bam, you get hit with this error message. Windows is claiming it needs 52 gigabytes of space, which is more than double what we gave it. At this point, you'd be forgiven for thinking, well, that's it, project's over.
But here's the best part. The fix is to just ignore it. Seriously, you just click on the drive you made, hit next, and the installation just continues on like nothing ever happened. It's a fantastic little quirk. Okay, so Windows is installed, you're finally at the desktop, but you are not quite done. The screen resolution will probably look all wrong. The very last step is to open up the virtual CD drive inside Windows and install something called Guest Tools. Think of these as special drivers that teach Windows how to talk to the iPad screen correctly. Once you do that, everything gets sharp and clean.
So, you've done it. Windows 11 is up and running on your iPad, but what's it actually like to use? Let's get down to the final verdict. And this table pretty much sums it up perfectly. On the one hand, let's be honest, it is incredibly cool. It's an amazing technical achievement, and you still have your normal iPadOS just a swipe away. But on the other hand, the installation takes a while, and the performance, while surprisingly okay, is nowhere near fast enough to actually replace your laptop.
But here's one final, tantalizing thought. The source mentions that if your iPad was jailbroken, you could potentially unlock way more power for the emulator. We're talking performance that gets much, much closer to a real PC. Now that's an interesting idea for the more adventurous out there.
And that leaves us with the big question. Is this whole thing just a fun, niche experiment, a cool party trick for tech geeks? Or are we looking at a glimpse of the future? A future where our mobile devices are so powerful they can be any computer we want them to be at any time. It really makes you wonder,